All right, before we get started with actually the heavy building of the WordPress theme or even touching PHP code, we want to know what PHP is. So this is a definition from php.net, which is pretty much the go-to resource about the programming language PHP. I'm going to read through it with you, and then we're going to kind of describe, see if we can maybe add a little bit to this. You don't have to know PHP to work in WordPress, right?
Yeah, not specifically.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of us have taken extensive WordPress or PHP courses. We know enough about PHP that we can see when there's a PHP error, and then also know WordPress PHP, which is kind of a little bit of a language in and of itself. Like
Right.
They have built-in things, tools that you can use to accomplish certain functions, which PHP is really built on this idea of functions. If you use this function, it will accomplish this thing for you.
I would say you don't have to know how to write PHP from scratch.
Right.
That's what you don't have to know. You do have to get a general idea of how it works, and really, if you have any idea about how any other coding languages work, if you know JavaScript or C or anything like that, this is really easy to look at and get an idea what's going on.
Well, what you're saying is it's a programming language.
Right.
Now, HTML and CSS are markup languages.
Right.
A programming language uses things like if and else statements, and uses logic basically to accomplish certain purposes or functions. So let's look at PHP a little bit specifically. It's not difficult to get where you need to get to really be powerful within WordPress. So PHP is a widely used open source general purpose scripting language that is especially suited for web development and can be embedded into HTML. Nice, but what does that mean? Here's an example. So here's a basic HTML theme just like we have established right now. And after the opening body tag, notice they have a PHP statement here, and they execute some PHP code.
Right.
The thing to notice here is the opening PHP tag. It's an open bracket, question mark PHP. That tells the computer or tells the server, hey, after this is PHP language. And then they close it out right here with a question mark and a closing bracket. Or closing, I don't know what that's called.
It's just a closing tag.
Those are the first thing you need to know. Anytime that those are open and closed, we're using PHP. Anytime that that's not been open and closed in the area, we're using HTML. Okay?
So what does it do right there in the middle? Let's talk about that too. What's this saying?
Well, this is a little bit more specific. This echo is just telling it to output something, and then it's outputting a string, hi, I am a PHP script. There are a lot of different things you can do within the PHP opening tags. This one we're not even going to use very much right now, so we don't need to go way in depth about it.
Right, but it's just really simple. Opening, close, open tag, and then we're going to say, hey, PHP, we want you to echo this statement, like say this thing, and then once you're done saying this thing, we're going to end it, and then we're going to go back to the body, and we're going to close our body and close our HTML. So on our actual page here, if we were looking at this as an HTML page, our page would say, hi, I'm a PHP script.
Right, and in between those PHP tags, it could be anything.
Right.
You could do anything within the PHP language or within WordPress PHP if you're using a WordPress theme.
Right.
So instead of lots of commands to output HTML, PHP pages contain HTML with an embedded code that does something. In this case, hi. This is exactly what we're talking about. Output hi, I'm a PHP script. The PHP code is enclosed in a special start and processing instructions. PHP and this thing right here.
The closing tag.
Memorize these. You're going to see them a lot. You need to memorize them. And don't worry if you mess it up, because you'll always, troubleshooting is one of the best ways to figure out, to learn this stuff. Making a mistake and having to fix it. So this allows you to jump into and out of the PHP mode. What distinguishes PHP from something like client-side JavaScript is that the code is executed on the server, generating HTML, which is then sent to the client. Now, are you familiar with this concept at all, Jonathan?
Not specifically, no.
So if you've heard of the idea that you don't want to bog your site down with too much JavaScript, right? Well, the reason that is because JavaScript is executed on the client side, meaning the person's computer who's loading the page has to load the JavaScript.
Right.
So it takes all that load. So when you have a ton of JavaScript, the computer, my personal computer, has to load all that every time, or your computer, or whoever is going to this page. Now, your computer has limitations, and it has an internet speed, it has limitations as far as the actual computer itself. The benefit of PHP is all of that programming, all of the actual execution of the scripts is done by the server before it's even sent to to your computer. So all of it's done on the back end, and then it just sends directly in HTML to you, which is very quick for you to read. Your computer doesn't have to do any work. So that's the difference between client-side programming language, which JavaScript is a client-side. Our client takes the brunt of the work, and a server-side programming language like PHP. Server-side programming languages are vastly faster and more efficient because the server is set up to be fast, and it just sends you the HTML for your computer to read. Okay. The client would receive the results of running that script. Let's read that again so we get an idea. Okay. What distinguishes PHP from something like client-side JavaScript is that the code is executed on the server, generating HTML, which is then sent to the client. Make more sense now?
Right.
The client would receive the results of running that script, but would not know what the underlying code was. You can even configure your web server to process all your HTML files with PHP, and then there's really no way that the user can tell what you have up your sleeve. So let's look at, we'll show you some examples of this in a little bit, but what that means is on a site running with PHP, any WordPress site, when you go in and view the source code or inspect an element, you'll never see any PHP in there, ever.
Right.
You'll only see the HTML that was sent to you after the PHP was executed. That's what that means. The best things in using PHP are that it is extremely simple for a newcomer, but offers many advanced features for a professional programmer. Don't be afraid reading the long list of PHP's features. You can jump in a short time, start writing simple scripts in a few hours. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're just going to jump right in, have a couple scripts that we're going to use very often and just show you them. And then at the end of the course, we're going to give you some additional resources for learning some PHP and some specific resources for knowing WordPress, PHP, and the common things that you and I use all the time.